Hello everybody, welcome back to another Living Room Toy Collector, and this is Anna Chaos, and today I'm bringing you guys something really special from my childhood. And I used to have these when I was little, and then with time things goes missing, so I lost them. And then my little sister's mother-in-law, she's a very avid thrifter, and then she managed to find these for me, and she gave it to me one year as a birthday gift. And what I'm talking about is the read-along adventure books, specifically the Star Trek books, because I am a big Star Trek fan. Always have since I was little. In Puerto Rico, we used to get them translated in Spanish, and I gotta be honest, sometimes the story did not make any sense. So it wasn't until I moved to the United States and I finally learned how to speak English that I rewatched this series, and that made me love the series even more. And yes, I love Spock. He will forever be my first love, my TV crush. Forever, Spock. Hell yeah. So specifically, the one that I got right here is Star Trek the Motion Picture. And the next one is Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. And what's really fun about this is that my fiance, now husband, because we just got married, he has never seen the original Star Trek. So one of the things that we've been doing since the end of last year is that we just finished watching all the original Star Trek. We watched the Star Trek the Animated Series, and then right now we're going through the movies, and we just finished Star Trek 5. God, I can't remember the title of that one. It's some one word. You find Spock's brother, and they go for the quest to find God. I can't remember the title of it, but we just finished watching it last night. So my goal is to get my husband to watch all the Star Trek, so that way he can get all the freaking Star Trek references every time we watch some pop culture show, and it just goes over his head, and so it's been pretty fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at this book series. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you a little bit of the footnotes on Buena Vista Records. Anytime you see Buena Vista or Lake Buena Vista is Disney. I grew up in Orlando. I lived there for 20 years. We literally have a Lake Buena Vista. And even back when Gargoyles came out, when the show first came out, was a little bit too off-putting for the heavily religious demographic that Disney was catering to. So instead of killing a really good product, thank God they didn't do it, they wouldn't show the Disney logo ahead of it. They would put production of Lake Buena Vista Productions in it. And they kind of have a history of kind of doing adult-based content under that title. And so that way they could still produce stuff, make money, and not offend their primary base. So originally, Buena Vista Records were catering towards adult music, mostly like pop music and soundtracks. And then later on, they found their niche by creating children's story album, and they were a big hit because it was used as an educational tool where the kid will listen to the record or the cassette tape what they were reading along with the pictures. So it was part of the developmental part of the kids, like reading skills and all that stuff. And I remember because I used to have these when I was little. And granted, mine's for, I don't know if, I know I had a version of it that was in Spanish, but I gotta be honest, I'm like 40, I have to see if there were the legal version of those copies. But anyway, a little bit of history, more about the company. They were founded in the 50s and 60s. Later on in 1970, the golden age of records. The format solidified for the company, and Disney transitioned to the yellow rainbow labels that added the cassettes, and that's pretty much what I was talking about. That's around the transition time. And then later on, the cassettes kept going, and they would put things such as like little critter stories. They would do a lot of major movies where they took out all the adult content stuff, such as these movies right here, and they made it so that way the child will get a chance to enjoy the film or the content without getting over traumatized of the stuff. So it's like a dumbed down version of the movie that is very kid friendly. Now, believe it or not, I guess it's an effort by a company or a group of people where they actually have been collecting some of these, and they have them online. You could go right here, click the thumbnail to open the page, which link to flipbook, PDF, and MP3. And you can see there is a lot of these books. And some of them, see, here's one, 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You can see this one is the record and this one's the cassette. And they have about, 20 or so versions of this. And a lot of this is my childhood. Right here, Star Trek, The Empire Strikes Back, Garfield, Star Wars, The Hobbit. So they got Alf, Gremlins, Tron, Short Circuit. Who remembers Short Circuit? Back to the Future. So this is pretty fun. They also have an entire list of what they have available right now, and they're doing their best to catalog these, because unfortunately, as the media goes away, there's a lot of people that are actively trying to preserve a lot of the media now that we have the cloud base and digitizing of this content, so that way it's not lost to future generations. And right here it tells you the company, Disneyland Records, Disney Buena Vista Records. They tell you the number of these, and I'll show you these inside the booklet. They tell you what year they were released. So this is pretty cool. So you literally, all you have to do is type in read-along adventures. This will pop up. And they even have a blog talking about each one of these. The last one was updated was 2020. I'm not sure if these folks are still doing this effort, but this is still pretty neat that someone is going out of their way to do this and support the webpage. Now, if you go to Disney read-alongs, it goes all the way back to the full list, all the way back. I mean, all the way back. And it talks about more about the history of the books. Again, I'm not gonna regurgitate all this, so you can pretty much just type in Disney read along, and this will pop up. And they have some great pictures of some of these like books that some folks have collected throughout the years. And see, there's some of these have like the drawing of the record, and this is more what I remember. These right here, like towards the 80s, you have the elephant. They had all kinds of kitschy stuff, which was great. All of this was great. And then when I tell you the list is extensive, I am not kidding. Here is the extensive story. Some of these titles released on vinyl. And by the way, there is way more than this. When I try to ask Google how many read-along adventure books are there, there is no single definitive number of read-along adventure books. They made that many that I guess they can't catalog all of them. And right here you can see they will show you, and some of these have like their own pages, the Wikipedia pages. And then they will talk about more about the read-along book in there, which is really cool. Okay. And then this keeps going. See right here, and they're numbered. And this is right here, Little Golden Books. This is where they shifted to the cassettes. Charlie Brown Records, early cassette titles include, and these right here, I don't know why they changed to this numerical DC. I don't know why. I'm assuming that's when they went to like this to record. They were able to just kind of separate them by doing that. And yeah, so this gives you a very extensive list. And actually, if you go in here, see, it just keeps going. There's the 90s. Yeah, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck. Just keeps going. 2000, 2021, there's 101 Dalmatian. And a long books now this is something that I saw later on. At this point, by the 2000s, 221s, I was in my 30s. And I noticed that some of the new ones came with a CD title. And this is some of the newer ones, like Finding Nemo, Jungle Book. And it continues on and on and on. And I would not be surprised if a lot of these are also on like Amazon or like maybe like some Disney subscription where you could just kind of do an audiobook with the visuals. And but this is a very extensive list. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at these two books that I have, just to go down memory lane and just kind of enjoy these. All right, so let's take a closer look at this. I don't want to show too many photos because I don't want to get a strike for copyright, but I do want to show you some basic stuff about these. So this one, for some reason, they had like a little notch cut into them. I don't know what that was about. But this one right here, this came with a record, 33 RPM. And then this is book 461. And when you go right here, and right here, this is really cool. So you have the Star Trek The Motion Picture. Now, keep in mind that the movie came out at a different time than the book did. So this is one of the few times where you're going to see, C and P and R. So this right here, you have copyright, patent, and register. 1979 is when the movie came out, and then 1983, and then Paramount Pictures, all that stuff. You can see right here, all the rights in here. So every time you see this symbol, that's what that means. But you can see if you watch the movie, they have a couple of screenshots, and they're really easy to read. This is like very basic English. So for me, this was great because, I come from one language, and I had to learn another language. And anytime that you have to go to a new language or new country and learn their language, start with the kids stuff and build your way up. The best way to, especially remember the movie The Hulk? This was like from like the 2000, where the guy was in Brazil hiding and he was learning how to speak Portuguese from Sesame Street. I highly suggest to people to do that, because as I learned how to speak English fluently in a year when I moved to the States, I was watching like the Smurfs and the Flintstones and a lot of kids show, and as I was able to pick up the language and translate for my family. So right here, like I said, I don't want to go through all of them because I don't want to get hit, but right here you can see that is the end of the book. And sorry, I'm trying to do this by one hand. You can see complete the set of your read-alongs. Now this one, this is the sleeve, and I don't want to open it too much, but if I bend it, you can see where the record used to be. And that normally tends to be the situation with these books. You can always find a book, you can find a record, or you can find a tape. It's really hard to find them both together, because let's be honest, it's kid stuff gets all over the place and it gets lost. You can see right here, here's some of that listing you saw in there. They had the Star Wars, at this point was coming back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Droid World, E.T., Dark Crystal. So they had quite a bit of a lineup for these, and they even had the Wrath of Khan and the Search for Spock on this, which is crazy for little kids. And then on the back is really awesome, and this is the one that has like the little read-along adventures, 24-page book, and they even put a space for that way the store can put like their price tag here, and that way, you know, wouldn't damage the rest of the printing here, which is really cool. All right, so let's go and take a look at the other books. So you have Star Trek, The Voyage Home, and as you can see, again, it's 24-page book. It's got the little cassette tape. And this one is 171 DC. And then right here, now this one is a little different than the other one. This one is copyright. So this one came around the same time as the movie. So it says copyright in, patent and copyright 1986. I'm having a brain fart. And then you can see, if you watch the movie, it's literally just little clips of what happened in the film. In my opinion, you know, like some of these uniforms in the show were just crazy, but it's just really simple, you know, like it's just a couple of screenshots from the show and what happened, which is really cool. I called this one the Whale movie, and if anybody that's watched it, they know. And then I like how they kind of keep carrying this joke through, like Next Generation, and even Lower Decks kind of hinted at it a little bit. I still need to watch the new series that came out. It's like Starfleet Academy. I have not watched it, mostly because I want to enjoy all the series from the beginning with my husband, and then just kind of work my way up to there. So that's pretty much what our goal is going to be for the next year or two. But you can see, you complete the set, and right here you have DC. I'm assuming it's like disc cassette is what that stands for. And like I said, that's my assumption. I have some in disc cassette. And then you can see some of the other ones. So some of these are pretty similar. And Ewok Adventure, Robo Force. So what was really cool about these is that some of these were very focused on like some of the mainstream stories, versus like some of the other ones are just really basic, like the little duckling story. But these were focused on like the mainstream stuff. And you can see, just like the other one, let me put this one versus this one. At this point, you know, they had the UPC codes coming out. I need to look up the history of UPC codes, but I think they've only been out like 50, 60 years. So that kind of makes sense that this one doesn't have it, but this one does. But I have to double check myself. But you can see a lot of the marketing has not changed very much, except that now there is a different illustration and you have a cassette instead of a record, which is pretty neat. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video. Like I said, I don't make these to like go through the whole history of the thing. Mostly, like I said, this is just me sharing my collection, and hopefully kind of drum up some conversations like with your friends. Like I bring this up to like some of my friends who are like in their 50s and 60s, or mostly 50s and like 40s like I am, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe you have that, and then we just geek out for a while. So hopefully this will do the same thing for you. And like I said, I could go here and tell you the history, but people already done it. So I'm probably going to provide the links on the comments below the video description, so that way you can go exploring. But mostly it's just me wanting to share my collection and just kind of, you know, bring the joy, or maybe bring, it's like, oh my god, I remember that, you know, kind of deal. And like I said, Star Trek has been a really big part of my life. I've loved it since I was a kid. I originally used to watch it in Puerto Rico in Spanish, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this before. The translation sometimes was not really good. and the story made no sense. So it wasn't until I moved to the States in 1992, and I learned like American English, not the proper English we get taught in school in Puerto Rico, that I was able to rewatch the show and finally get the full story, and I loved it even more. And mostly for me is that, coming from Hispanic culture, there was a lot of very specific figures that you always saw on TV. Representation was very limited, and Star Trek. So like think back then, Star Trek, the Bill Cosby show, especially for me because I am considered a person of color. I love the fact that Uhura was, even in the cartoon at one point she became temporary commander. I was like, wow, women can do that, and people like me can do that. So seeing people of different cultures interact with each other is something that I've carried since I was little. In Puerto Rico, if you know anything about our history, we were very blended population. We have a very rich history of migration, and it's the same thing here. So I've always loved the show and how they tackle certain subject matters and the critical thinking that comes from the show, mostly because it's not a lot of pew pew bang bang. It's like, oh, we're having this issue, how do we solve it? Well, according to the code, we cannot do that, but here's a very creative critical thinking solution. And that's what I kind of always loved. And some of these were, let's be honest, the science is kind of bullshitty. But there's a lot of nerds that are now in NASA naming stuff from the show, so that's what makes it even more fun. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me. Like I said, this is just me sharing my videos. I am not an expert. Like I said, I love Star Trek, but I'm not going to claim I am a diehard, like I know everything about the show. Hell no, that's too much. But I do enjoy it, and it's forever be like, I like it. And I know it's not going to be popular. I like Star Trek better than Star Wars. Sorry, guys. That's my personal preference, and that's it. So, except for The Mandalorian. That's hot. The Mandalorian is hot. They did a good job. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.